right, so this week what we're going to do is create some animation. Woo! Okay, so what you need to do is make sure your project is set to your project so that everything's where it needs to be. And then what we're going to do is this. I need to be, right now when we modeled our stuff, they're modeled at a scale that each one's probably not the same. So if I put my character in my environment, you're going to see that the environment is too small. So what we're going to do is I'm going to open up my environment first. I'm just going to do File, Open Scene, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the environment. And I don't need to save this. I don't know why I asked to save an empty scene, but whatever. It's going to open it up. Looks great. Okay. Now by default, this environment is going to be too small because I don't know how big my character is, but it might be too big or too small. I don't really know. So what I want to do is basically take everything that's in here. I just want to clean this whole scene up and then make it scalable. Okay, so we haven't used this before, but I'm just going to show you it. If you go to Windows, Settings, Preferences, Windows, General Editors, Hypergraph Hierarchy, we can now see everything that's basically inside of our scene. These are all the nodes. So if I grab these different things, you're going to see, let's get closer. It's going to highlight the various things over here. Okay, so these are all, most of these are meshes, right? So you can see, oh yeah, it's all this stuff. Okay, so what I want to do is basically just grab everything and group it together. So let's grab the whole thing like this, and I'm going to hit Control or Command G. It might be Control G on a Mac too, I'm not sure. That's going to make it a group. Make sure I'm in the channel box here. I'm going to rename this group, and we'll just call this Environment Model. Or let's just call it environment underscore geo. Actually, that's not right either. It shouldn't be geo. It should be grp. I don't know what I'm thinking. Okay. Now, what will happen is if I click on any one of the elements that I'm allowed to click on, which apparently is not any. Come on. Okay. Let's say I just click on this. You can see that it's showing that I have it highlighted like this. If I hit the up arrow, it moves up the hierarchy. In this case, that's the whole group. So you can see it'll move up. I only have one. There's only a thing of two hierarchies. There's the group, and then everything else is inside of it. But now what that allows me to do is I can go through and scale this all together as one big thing. Okay, so that's good. That's one thing I need to do. The other thing I want to do is this. I'm just going to go ahead and just to make sure everything's clean, I'm going to go to Modify, Center Pivot, just to make sure everything's centered. Modify, Freeze Transformations, making sure everything's zeroed out. And then I'm going to do Edit, Delete, All by Type, History. And that's just going to make sure that there's nothing extra in there. Now, it would be good if these various things were obviously named and all that correctly, but I'm just going to call that good enough. Okay, so we're going to call this good. Now, when I go to save this, I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to do Control-Shift-S or File Save As. And instead of naming it NVGO underscore V03, I'm going to just call it ENV, all capitals, underscore GEO, all capitals. Okay? And we're going to hit Save As. Now, why we're doing that is that normally if you're working with a bunch of people, you're going to keep, as you're working, right, you're going to keep updating. So it's become V01 and V02, V03, right? Well, when they go to grab your file, they're going to know which one's the master one based off of it being capitals. Well, I mean, they might have their own naming convention, but that's what I go by. So basically, I make everything capitals, and that way that one stands out, and I'm like, oh, that's the master one, and then I will select that one, okay? So we save that. That's good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the other one, my player. So I'm going to open scene, and we're going to go to, apparently I still have this boy Geo, which is probably not a good name for it, but we'll go ahead and open up that. And now we have this, and that's great. So let's just go to Windows, General Editors, Hypergraph Hierarchy, and I'm going to see if I have any extra nodes in here that I should get rid of. I don't know why I said nodes. So let's see what we have, and I've got this character reference, and what are these? Oh, these are, that's the rig. Now, I'm not going to scale this guy anyway, and he doesn't have like a ton of stuff. If you have a ton of stuff, that's fine. We're just going to leave that like that. Okay. So we're going to call that good. I can't freeze transform to center things or delete history on him because that is actually what makes him animatable. The rig works through the history. So we can't remove any of those aspects of it. So we actually have to leave him more or less the way that he is. There is one thing I would like to do. I'm going to go to show in all so that I can see his rig. But you are going to notice that when we go to rotate his head, that his eyes appear to go off. And what's actually happening is that his head is not weighted 100% to the head joint. So we're just going to fix that real quick, and then we'll export this out. So I'm going to click on just the model itself. I'm going to hit Shift-I to isolate. That way nothing else is in there, and it'll make it easier to work with. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to go to, probably easier to do it this way. I don't like doing it this way. We're going to go to Paint Skin Weights tool. Now, it's going to bring up this tool settings. And the way that it works is that with this joint selected, right, you can see these are all the joints of my character. The hips, the upper leg, left upper leg, and left foot. And then upper leg, lower leg, foot. It shows you the influence. So the hips, which are right here, right? Now watch, if I go to the left upper leg, you can see that affects this. That's where this bone is, right? And if I select the lower leg one, that's where the lower leg bone is, and the left foot, there it is, okay? So that's the way that it works. What I want to do is go to my head, because that's the one that's not as strong as it should be. Now notice, my head, see how it's gray? That means it's not 100%. Like watch, now if I go to my neck, you can see the neck also is gray. That means both of these are affecting it. Looks like shoulder's pretty good. So basically the neck and the head are both affecting it, and really it should be just the head. So with the head selected, I didn't mean to do that at all, that's annoying. Okay, with the head selected, I was trying to get it so you can see it. I'm going to go down here, and what I want you to do is just go to add for the option, click on this one, and then opacity we want 1 and value we want 1. Basically what this is going to do is going to say make 100% when we paint on this. And if I hit B, I can change my brush size. So I'm just going to make sure it's small enough so I don't accidentally hit anything down here. That'll really mess it up. And I'm just going to paint the white all up on his head. Make sure you have the head joint selected. Okay? We're just trying to fix him. We don't really have any neck joints or neck vertices down there, so whoopsies. Didn't really do a great job. It's really lagging. So I'm just going to make sure I get all this to be white. And it's okay. And let's look underneath, and it looks like I missed that one. And I'm just going to look around, and we look good. So when I'm doing that, I'm just going to exit out of this and just hit like Q or something. Q, W, E, or R, just to get out of that tool. And now you're going to notice, I'm going to go ahead and bring everything back. You can see I'm still on isolate perspective, so I'm going to have nothing selected. I'm going to unselect that and hit Shift-I. That'll bring everything back. Now you're going to notice when I go to rotate this, the eyes and the hair do not go off because now they're all 100% to that joint. So that's why that was happening. Now you can do that with everything, and normally I go through and I paint every single vertice, much more particular than what you saw there. However, I am not going to do that just because it takes too much time. So like there's certain things, like obviously when I take this and we move this down, right, you can see it kind of makes this collapse. But with time constraints and stuff, I'm just not really prepared to do that, so we're not going to do that. All right, we're going to call that good as far as he is concerned. Okay, so what I want to do now is save him. So I'm going to do Control-Shift-S or File Save As or Command-Shift-S. And this time we're going to call this all caps, boy _ rig. Again, I'm doing 2 capitals. This lets me know that it's a rig and it's our boy character, okay? And then I'll hit save as. All right, yay. So he's good to go too. So now what we're going to do is we're going to reference those into a new scene. So we're just going to click on to make a new scene. You click sheet of paper or go file, new scene. Either way works. We got a nice blank scene. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reference those in. So what that means basically, it's kind of like bringing footage into a video editor where it doesn't exist in this file. It's merely referencing another file. However, I have access to it and I can move it around and you can animate it and I can render it. But the source file, if I want to change anything about it, I actually have to go to the original rig, or I'd have to go to the original environment model and open that up. And that's really good because if you're working in a team environment, right, you're going to have one person that, let's say she's rigging this character, and then you got all your animators over here working. Let's say one of the animators is like, oh, the rig's broken. Well, then they be like, hey, her arm, when I go like this, it does something. And then she'll go, okay, and then she'll go over here and fix it, and then since they're all sourcing the same rig file, all of theirs will be fixed. So you have to go to each individual one, and because it's that one file that we named rig with all caps, she just has to open that one up, okay? So referencing is really good. It also allows you to bring in things multiple times if you want. You can reference things as many times as you want. It keeps, because it's being sourced from a file, it can't be like destroyed in any way. It's hard to break. So anyway, we're going to reference them in. So it's not import, it's not open, it's file, create reference. And then we'll go ahead and do the environment first. Reference. And there it is. You can see our environment, right? I'm going to hit 6 so I can see the textures. I could also not do that. I can also just click here or whatever, but we'll stay with flat shade for now. All right. And then we're going to do file, create reference, and let's reference in our rig. Reference. And boom. Now you can see, right? He's too big. So, kind of what I figured. So, and again, I can hit textures. You can click textures, make sure everything's loading in correctly and what have you. But that looks fine. Turn that back off. Turn that back off. Okay. Now we have this, right? So, first thing I want to do is just go ahead and let's save this. So I'm going to do Control-Shift-S, save the scene. And we're just going to call it anim_v01, right? It's our first animation. Now what I want to do is I need to make this, I cannot scale the rig. I think this rig might be actually scalable, but you don't generally scale rigs, so don't scale it. That's why if you have more than one character, you need to make sure they're the same size in their own scene files. So maybe bring one in, you can reference it in, and then unreference it, so that you know that it's the correct size before you bother rigging it. Because once they're rigged, you can't scale them, okay? So if for some reason you need to unload a reference or get rid of a reference, you just go to File, Reference Editor, and then right here, you can see everything that's referenced. We only have 2. And if I click on one, he'll go away, but I can turn him back on. So I can animate him, do all this other stuff, but let's say I have a bunch of characters and it's really slowing down. I can turn some of them off, work on my stuff, and then turn them back on. So this is really good for that. If you want to permanently get rid of one, you select it and hit this little minus diamond. Or you go to Reference and Remove Reference, okay? But we want both of them anyway, so that's all fine. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to scale our scene. So I'm just going to select one item. I'm going to hit the up arrow until I get my environment group. That's why we made that group. And actually, we'll just go down here. I'm going to hit R for scale. And where is that? It's up here. Okay. And we're just going to go ahead and scale this. And let's move it up. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Well, I'm going to hold D. And I'm going to move the pivot down so it's a little bit easier to work with. So that I don't have to, like, be way over there. And let's move this up like this. And let's scale it again. Yeah. And scale again. Yeah. And I feel like he's still a little bit too big. Scale again. And we'll go with, we'll say that. Okay, so it's like 2.631 is what I have. Okay, let's go ahead and move that down a little too. And good. Okay. Call that good. All right. That looks pretty okay. Looks pretty acceptable. All right. So, now we've got that going on. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that this is, so let's go ahead and save this again. Control S. I'm trying to think of anything else I need to do before okay. So now this is set up for basically animation. So now what I can do is start animating. I'm going to do that in the next video. I'm just going to maybe have him walk in and, I don't know, do something. Just so you can see how to do kind of basic animation. All right? But we'll do that in the next one. The next one we'll do is we'll do a walk. And then after the walk, then we'll do another bit of animation with another thing. Okay? So, see you in the next one.